Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. Good to see you all. All right, so what are we going to be doing today? I don't know. I finished the resurrection stuff, or, quote unquote finished. Is anything really ever finished? But that's what, so I finished that. We'll figure out what we're going to do on today's stream. There's a bunch of things that I want to do regarding the balance. So I will probably just update these things really quick, the helmet and the Gorget artifact, but I want to focus next on like some of the combat balancing as well as some of the alchemy balancing, because those are kind of, I guess they're kind of problems right now. So yeah, we'll talk about some ideas that I have. But anyway, before I get into it, I want to remind everyone that Alchemy is available for wishlisting, and there's also a playtest that's currently live for Patreon members. However, the playtest is going to be available to everyone starting on Monday, and you'll be able to join from the Steam page here. So you don't need to subscribe to Patreon to join the playtest, but of course I do appreciate the support if you choose to. And there's a couple of other nice perks as well. If you subscribe to this top tier for at least 1 month, I'm going to send you a Steam key for the full game before the game launches. So you won't need to buy it on Steam. You'll have it immediately when the game launches. And that's just a reward for supporting the development early. You could think of this sort of like a pre-purchase, but in addition to getting a copy of the full game, you will also have your name listed in the Alchemy in-game credits as a thank you for supporting the development. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check that out. Would appreciate that for sure. I also, just on Patreon, released the next Alchemy devlog. So anyone who is subscribed to Patreon gets early access to the YouTube videos, but also by the nature that it's on Patreon, you can watch all the videos without ads and all that good stuff. And then I also have my Udemy courses available for sale. This is another great way to support me, and you'll also learn how to build games in the Godot engine. So all those things are linked below. Again, the Alchemy playtest starts on Monday for everybody. So join the Discord, subscribe to the email list at firebelly.com to be notified when that goes live. And yeah, I think that's it. Hello, the Malicious Rabbit. Welcome back. Good to see you. Hello, Clickertail. Good to see you. Emerson, welcome. I had an idea for fire. Forgot to put it in the Discord. I'll do that now. Yeah, I would appreciate that. I was thinking after Ninja Link said that, I was thinking about how I could differentiate the statuses a little bit more. I think I might rework bleed. So one of the things that I don't like about my statuses is that a status that applies, so like if we look at bleed, if we go to ability explanations and we look for bleed here. So this deals bleed amount anytime an item on an affected board executes. What I don't like about bleed is that it's kind of out of your control really how much damage that bleed is going to do, because it kind of depends on like what's on the enemy board. So I was thinking about reworking these things that are related to when an enemy deals damage, and instead like flipping it and making bleed like an augment for your physical damage. So make bleed, instead of just being a generic like, hey, the enemy takes damage whenever they deal damage, bleed could instead become something that augments your physical damage. So if you're trying to do like a physical build, then bleed will pair very nicely with that, because it will increase the amount of damage that you're doing. And I think I want to do that for the other things as well. Same for like holy. I don't know if I really want any statuses that are just kind of like totally dependent on what the enemy is doing. I don't think that that's working that well. And the other problem too is that when you get into the late game and these enemy boards have like 20 items on them, bleed becomes really powerful. So if I can do something like refocus bleed as being an augment for your physical damage, I think that might be a better approach. So instead of bleed, dealing damage whenever the enemy executes, it might be something like whenever you deal physical damage to the enemy, the bleed amount is added to it, or something like that, right? So anyway, we'll have to think about all that stuff. I do think that fire and poison need to be differentiated from each other a little bit more. So yeah, this is all part of like the balancing that I want to do. And yeah, we'll figure out what to do about that. But first, let me show you. It's in the suggestion channel. Okay, cool. I'll take a look at that. But first, let me show you what the resurrection looks like. Ah, son of a biscuit. Turn on training dummy. So I did finish the resurrection sort of event here. So if I go into the training dummy combat and I just go ahead and die real quick. So the resurrection comes in. You could choose to resurrect here for 1 resurrection stone. That drops. We get the beam into the sky and you resurrect with full health. So I think that looks pretty good. I think that that's acceptable for sure. And you know, that will only appear if you have resurrection stones. If you don't have resurrection stones, the game will just end automatically when you die. But this is here, like I said, as a moment of like, oh no, I died. Let me collect myself and like think about what I'm doing here. And then you can resurrect and go back in. Or if you're like, man, there's no way I'm going to win this, I'll just end the run right now. You can do that with the skull button here. So you click the resurrect, that resurrects you, and then off we go. Hello, Royal Munjask. Wow, that looks so good. Thank you. Appreciate that. No more grubs, yeah. I actually had that. I have a trail component, which I already made for the combat VFX, and I completely forgot about it. And so what I did is I was actually asking Claude, like, how do I make these ghosts look a little bit better or whatever? And it's like, oh, you already have a trail component. Why don't you just use that? And I was like, oh, thank you, Claude. So I basically kept the code that I had written yesterday, and I just removed all of those sprite segments that I was doing before, and I just used the trail component instead. So, but the steering behaviors and everything are all the same. And yeah, it's looking good. Hello, Baron for the win. Welcome back. Good to see you. That's why they pay Claude the big bucks, yes. Anyway, I need to make some slight changes here. This needs to be Helm of Geoffrey the Great, and then I need to... Oh, wait. There is no replace me text for this. Goodness gracious. Okay, so that's done. I think this is all done now. Let's see. Let's take a gander at this. Okay, that seems to be working just fine. So we're good to go there. Hello, X Jokes. Thanks again for the 100 bits. Thank you, thank you. And welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Resurrection looking great. Thank you. Good morning to you as well. Okay, so we can commit that. We don't need this anymore. Okay, so this is done now. Cool. And this is done. Great. All right. We can just delete that because I don't want to track that. So there's a couple of problems with the current balancing of the game. We have those status effect problems. We also have the problem of enemy health. I think, so I want to try inflating the enemy health pools a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean actually quite substantially. Because it's getting really hard to balance things like poison without just kind of like kneecapping the synergies that work with poison. So I think maybe just giving enemies larger health pools can help with that, because then it will allow you to get those builds together where you like stack up like 50 poison stacks. Because right now, you know, if the enemy has like 400 health and you stack up 50 poison, that's gonna do like 100 damage within like a handful of turns. So it kind of trivializes the fight difficulty, but the problem is, like, my poison numbers are already relatively low, and so I can't really just like turn down the numbers more, you know what I mean? That's one of the problems that I'm having. So that's something that we could do. Another thing that we could do is we could look at the alchemy, because right now it's a little bit too easy to like crossbreed things in alchemy. And so I'm trying to think of like what could I do to prevent that from happening? So we've got the empty ability slot system. Oh, and of course I actually don't have any significantly empty abilities. Okay, anyway, so we've got like this Staff of Allah, but what I could do is I could like alchemize these things together. And then I've got, you know, the Staff of Allah ability on that, and then I can potentially add it to another thing. So there's like a lot of cross-pollination, cross-breeding stuff I could do here. So see, I've just got like 3 of those abilities there. This might actually just be like a relatively strong item, but I want to see if I can limit that in some way. So a couple of ideas that I had. Which is that, well, I don't actually know if that's going to help. So there's a way to address this where I could just like take, so if you're doing alchemy, the abilities all get added up into a pool and then they get redistributed. So I think the way it currently works is that for each input available in alchemy, it has the random ability pool, but then it chooses abilities randomly. So it's possible that the Staff of Allah could add its ability to all of the other inputs. But I was thinking about making it just like a one-time use thing. So you add all the abilities to a pool, and then when that ability gets chosen, it can't be chosen by any other item. I don't know if that's going to help though, because if you still have empty ability slots, the abilities that exist on the item here, these don't get changed. So like the staff only has abilities added to it. It would only be when it's filled with abilities that it would start like adding its ability to the pool, and then, you know, that ability would only be able to be added into one other item. So I was kind of thinking about maybe doing something radical, because I also still have a problem where it's not very attractive to add multiple items into alchemy at once. So one thing that I was considering doing is just, well, I don't know if I like this either, but you know, something like once you alchemize an item, it can't be alchemized again. Now, I don't like that for a number of reasons, but one thing that is appealing about that is that if you know you have one shot to alchemize something, you'll be more incentivized to add more items to the board, right? So then you try to like fill out all the empty ability slots in one shot rather than just doing pair alchemies one at a time. But I don't like that for a number of reasons. I don't like alchemized items becoming unalchemizable. But anyway, there's just, yeah, so those are all the problems that I'm kind of thinking about. I think we can try like the ability pool idea first and see how that looks. They should add a ding sound effect to commits. That'd be oddly satisfying. Yeah, it would be. Staff is very strong, yeah. I did get a fire build with like 6 items using the staff's ability. It was insane, mixed with the fire pyre. The other thing is maybe this staff just isn't working properly. I mean, this is kind of like beside the point. But let me see. Oops, I kind of did this wrong. I died anyway. Okay, let's do this. You could create a reagent that copies a random stat from an adjacent item in the alchemy pot and adds it to the pool. So that'd be how you duplicate certain stats. Yeah, that could work. It does work with fire, right? Yeah, it does. Yeah, it should. So if I do the skull staff, oops, add item candle, add item candle. Okay. Yeah, so I was just making sure that this was, so it only applies the 3 stacks per unique status. So that means if you apply fire multiple times, it's only going to apply 3 fire once. So I was just making sure that that works, making sure there's not a bug that's somehow making that more powerful. So anyway, let's maybe let's take a look at the alchemy and see if we can make this a little bit nicer. The staff as a baseline is okay. Being able to duplicate its ability and then level it up across the board is what's broken about it. So the alchemy change would likely fix it. Yeah. So let's see how we can do this. So the tricky thing here is that card to possible new abilities. So this card to possible new abilities, this is basically logging for each item that's in the alchemy input. What are all of the possible abilities that it can have? But this is excluding the base composed abilities, which is kind of going to throw a wrench into what I'm trying to do, but so one issue here is that this get alchemy output, I'm getting lost here. Get alchemy output data is doing this per card. So I don't really have a way of knowing which a way of knowing which other cards were already processed so that I can track the history here. Let me think about this. The other problem with this approach is, like, let's say you put 4 cards in the input and there's only 4 abilities. Is that just going to shuffle them all around? I guess it is. Strongest part to me is being able to have the staff on a 1x1 card like WoW. Yeah. With no trade-off is crazy. Well, the trade-off is you have fewer ability slots, right? But yeah, maybe I actually don't know if this ability rework is going to work the way that I'm thinking about it. The other thing that I have to keep in mind too is that the way I'm thinking about this is probably going to further disincentivize using many items in Alchemy at once. Actually, maybe there's a smaller change that I can make here. So right now, if I open this up, actually, let me do this. There may actually be a smaller change that I can make here. I'm just going to give myself some player cards, some test player cards here. We'll do that. We'll do, I don't know, werewolf. Let's also do phylactery. Let's also do viper. Okay. There may be a smaller change I can make here. So I put this here. It's got 2 empty ability slots, and I put this here. That will gain 2 abilities. Okay, hold on. That will gain 2 abilities. We'll gain 1 ability. Okay, so the way that this is currently working is it will fill up all of the ability slots if it can. So that's right. But with the situation where the card is full of abilities, I think it only randomizes 1 at a time, or it randomizes based on the input card, input item count. So if I do this and I do this, see, this says it will have 1 ability replaced. I'm wondering, and if I add another one, it will have 2 abilities replaced. I'm wondering if I just get rid of that and make it randomize as many abilities as it can. Would that help? I think that might work. Random abilities to take. So this is based on... Why is this even out here? I don't know. These don't need to be out here. So if I say random abilities to take, instead of doing math.max input count -1, what happens if I do... What happens if I do this? So instead of having the randomized ability count based on the number of inputs, I just randomize as many abilities as I can. So you will still, so the thing that this is setting up now, the way I'm hoping it will set it up, is that when you have empty ability slots on an item, it becomes very predictable, or at least somewhat predictable, what's going to be added to the new ability slots. But when you have a filled item, then it just becomes like completely random after that. So you kind of get a mixture of both. Let me see how that looks. I want to make games, but I can't code. Help. Sorry, Dagan, you have to learn. You have to learn. What's the point you're trying to fix exactly? Trying to make the alchemy a little bit less deterministic, because it's too easy to get like super powerful things repeated multiple times. So if I do this, that should transfer that Viper straight over to the phylactery there. Yeah. But then the Viper got the phylactery things. So that's effectively kind of what I was after, which is that it removed the phylactery ability, but it added it to the Viper. But now if I do this, the Viper will have 2 abilities replaced, but if I add this one, it's going to have 3 abilities replaced, and if I add this one, it's going to have 4 ability replaced. So what I should see is that the Viper should have 3 poison, 7 damage, 2 fire, and 4 damage. So that Viper is going to have all of its abilities replaced. Yeah, look at that. Okay. That makes a lot more sense to me now, I think. So what that does is, because the previous thing was, you know, it just randomized the number of abilities equal to the input count -1. So that means if you put 2 cards that were filled with abilities together, each one would have 1 ability replaced. But now what I'm saying is that when an item has filled abilities, it's just going to randomize as many as it can. So it's going to look at all of the other abilities available in the inputs here. And it's going to say, I'm going to just take as many of those abilities as I can. So even if I put in, let's say this has 4 abilities, right? This one has 4. It will just replace up to the maximum ability slots, right? But I could do the werewolf here. This one, since it's empty, it's going to gain 2 abilities. And since this has 3 abilities, the Viper will have 3 of its abilities replaced. I think that makes sense. That introduces, I think, more randomness into it, while also preserving... It also preserves the fact that if an item has empty ability slots, you still have a lot of control over that. So it's more deterministic when you have empty ability slots, but then it flips to being completely random when you have filled abilities. Now, I don't think that necessarily solves the problem of using multiple items. Oh, it might actually solve the problem of using multiple items in one alchemy, because now, let's say that I have... So I have a skull staff, I've got 3 empty ability slots, right? It's just going to gain 2 abilities. So this is a situation where I may want to just stuff as many abilities as I can into there to fill up all those empty ability slots. Like, let's say I want the poison from the phylactery and I want the poison from the skeleton warrior. I guess... Yeah, I mean, I guess that's not super good, but that's all right. Anyway, that makes more sense to me. We'll have to figure out how to incentivize using multiple cards in Alchemy at once again, but now this should work with honey now too. If I add item honey, oops. If I add item honey and I say I want to keep my Staff of Vela the same, and then I want to try to get the Staff of Vela ability onto the werewolf. Oh, that's going to be adjacent though. Onto the skeleton mage. So I can protect this one. This one's not going to have any abilities replaced, and this one will have 2 abilities replaced. So I can use that honey reagent to try to get that ability. Okay. That already feels much better to me, even without just playtesting it. So I think this is a nice middle ground. So you have the determinism when an item has empty ability slots. So that becomes like a crafting mechanic where you have a lot of control over what abilities end up on the item. But then once an item is filled with abilities, it's totally random. Like, you are not guaranteed any sort of outcome. It's not going to randomize one ability at a time. It's just going to randomize as many as it can. I think that makes sense. If you're looking for radical changes, then you can make it to where alchemy outputs are randomized as the baseline regardless if there are open ability slots. So certain items could become filled or completely empty on the end of alchemy. Then the reagent just adds extra stats into the mix. Yeah, that would be an option too. So the early alchemy system was basically completely random. Like, it even randomized things like the turn cooldown and the crit chance and everything. The problem is playtesters were afraid to use alchemy because it was not predictable enough. So the risk of getting something that was bad was outweighed by the benefit of getting something that was good. So then what I did is I made the alchemy system more deterministic. But on this playtest now, it's gone too far in the direction of determinism where it's too easy to get what you want. So now we're just taking a little bit of a step back, and we are maintaining some of the determinism while introducing more randomness. So I hope that's good. We'll have to play test that, of course, but why do I use C#? It's just personal preference, that's it. Hello, Brett. Bretlow Cicero? I think that's how you say it. Haven't tuned in for a couple weeks. Always super cool seeing your progress. Yeah, thank you. Welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Seems really logical. I never use reagents other than adding fire poison to cards. Every other, like honey, where I was out of my mind because I didn't feel like I understood how to use it at all. Oh, gotcha, yeah. Okay. Randomize as many abilities as possible on filled items. So that was actually like a much smaller scope change than I was anticipating making, but we will make ability replacement that might be a good middle ground. So now you have control over, like I said, your empty ability slots, but then let's say that you don't quite get what you want. You might just say, well, I'm okay with the total randomization. Let's just like throw a bunch of things in the pot and see if it randomizes into something good. I think that might be okay. When combining, so there's a bug here. So there's a bug here that I might want to fix. It's a couple of bugs here actually, but I do want to experiment with inflating the enemy health values as well. Seeing your use of the honey right there was intriguing with the new system. I like it. Yeah, I hope this is more interesting, but you know, that change is not going to be pushed for this playtest, but when the next playtest rolls around, hopefully it's in a better spot. So I might as well just go ahead and make this change as well. So we're going to create a new branch for inflate enemy health. We're also going to have to update all of the abilities. Might inflate the player health as well. Anyway, turn off generate test map training dummy. Get rid of this, suppress tutorial. Okay. So I'm just going to make a bunch of these changes at once and I'm going to see how it all feels. All right, so the inflation of the enemy health numbers. Let's just go ahead and go to my enemy board generator. Calculate, let's see. Nope, that's not right. Combat configuration. Base health multiplier. Here's what we're going to do. We're just going to triple it. We're just going to triple it. And let's just take a gander at what that looks like. Hello, Davies, unofficial son. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. That's quite a funny name. I don't know who Davey is, but it's just kind of funny. Okay, so this, yeah, so in the starting area here, we're already up to like 200 health here. This has 448 health. This one's got 567, 663. And then if we go all the way over here, we're at 1500. Honestly, I don't even know if that's as high as I like. I think I want it to be higher. Let's do 0.75. So obviously there's going to have to be a ton of adjustments made to all the items and whatnot, but... Alright, so we're already at 261 health here. 380 health there. First boss has 623 health. So, I'm kind of taking the approach, I forgot, there's like some famous game designer who's like, if you're going to tweak numbers, like do large tweaks so you can really notice the difference. And then you can always scale it back later. So that's kind of the approach that I'm taking, is I'm just going many multiples higher of health than what I'm accustomed to. Of course, I need to update all of the items in the game. I probably also should think about inflating the player health a little bit. Yeah, we'll see. How goes the game dev? It goes well. It's going well. It's going well. All right. Well, it's time to just go and update all these freaking cards' abilities. So what did I did? I went point. I did a 5x health increase. Let's just simplify this for now. Oh, maybe we don't want to do that. 15 times 5 is 75. 25 times 5 is 125. Right? And then int.max value, we'll do 20. Okay. We'll keep that the same. Let's multiply this. 75, 10, 15. Health scalar, that's 40. Wait, did I do that wrong? Oh, I did this wrong. That needs to be 40. Okay. 40 to 5. 5 times 16 is what? Quick maths, 80. We'll do 15 here. Okay. So just update all the scalars there. All right. Also put a suggestion for bleed as well in Discord. I'll take a look. Yeah, thank you. Time for a tool script for adjusting global balance. Maybe. Hopping in the stream and see Firebelly holding his head and silently staring at his code. It's going well. Yeah. I feel like the pixel art for me is impossible. I just can't do it. What would you recommend? Like, way how to practice? Well, I have a pixel art tips video on this channel, which you can look at if you're interested. What I found in my experience learning pixel art is that it's the same as learning anything else, right? Learning the unknown unknowns, right? When you have unknown unknowns, like you don't know why your pixel art doesn't look good and you don't know where to start. That was the situation that I was in. It's like, okay, I kind of get the concept of like, I pick a color and I draw it to the canvas, but it doesn't look good. Like what's happening? And that's a situation where you have unknown unknowns. Like you don't know why you can't achieve what you're trying to achieve. And so the way that I learned is I looked up pixel art tutorials on YouTube. I looked up like pixel art critique videos. I made a real effort to study how other people were doing their pixel art, like pixel artists who were really good on social media. But, and through that, I learned basically 5 things that made an immediate difference in the quality of my art. And so I have a video covering those 5 things on this channel. I think it's called How to Get Good at Pixel Art with No Skill. And what I think you'll find is that that will unlock a lot of the unknown unknowns for you. So when I tell you, hey, use more contrast, when I tell you to hue shift your shadows towards purple and your highlights towards yellow, those are just like a couple of the tips in the video. When you see those things in action, you learn those things, hopefully that will give you an understanding of like at least some of the basics that you're missing. And then beyond that, it's just a matter of practice. Like even if you know the fundamentals, even if you learn and study color theory, even if you're watching all these tutorial videos, at the end of the day, you're not going to get better at it unless you keep practicing. But when you know the things that you should be looking for when you're actually practicing, you're going to learn a lot faster, I think. Hello, Bomb That Implodes, welcome. How's the hierarchy of code stuck on the top of your editor? I don't remember. That is some kind of setting in VS Code, but I set that a long time ago, so I don't remember what setting that is. But that is very nice, isn't it? And it also like pins it here, which is cool. I'm sorry though, I don't remember what that was. Okay, all right. Let's go and update everything. Oh gosh. Do I really want to go through and update everything here? Trying to think if there's an easier way to do this. How long have you been doing this for? I mean, game dev, a long time, since I was 14 years old. So, yeah, long time. I'm 31 years old now, so whatever, however much that is, 17 years, is that right? Talking about pins. Well, one easy thing to do. So what I could do to make my life a little bit easier is I could add like a global multiplier in here to these ability builder methods and just multiply whatever magnitude's coming in by that. But, fudge. How long is this going to take to click through this? I mean, we could ask Claude to do it. Should we ask Claude to do it? Maybe that'll be easier. Because I know what I want to do. It's just going to be extremely tedious. Let's just ask Claude to do it. This is my junior dev who gets to do all the tedious work for me. How do I reference... Don't express the magnitude. Apply. Do not modify poison, bleed, or fire. All right. We'll let Claude chunk away at that. What color scheme are you using for VS Code? Dracula. It's called Dracula. Okay. So while that's going, we do need to consider... So the problem with having these inflated health values is that the combat widget is going to no longer support. It's no longer going to support the length of the health anymore. So if we go to Assets, UI, here. Oh gosh. Oh. So basically in here, that health text goes there and that health text goes there. But now that we've got, you know, let me do this. Oh, I hate that. So now that we can have 4 digits in each part, that's going to go off the screen there. Now, one thing I could do is I could just extend these black areas through to the edge here. And then kind of, but these would just be a little bit off center. But that may be okay. It's just that if it was centered, it'd look more like this. I could maybe extend it to the left as well, too. I might have enough room to do that. I could even thicken the sides up a little bit. I mean, this is not a change I'm going to make until I'm sure that the health changes are good, but that is something that I have to consider, is redoing that art, which is a little bit annoying. How long did it take for you to develop Gunforged? I think Gunforged was in development for, like, in some form or another for like 3 years. But, I mean, the way Gunforged originally started is completely different than the way it ended. So it's almost like I developed 2 games in that period of time. The first game did not work. It failed. And the second game was a moderate success. Gunforged was originally supposed to be like an Enter the Gungeon clone kind of deal, with like a Noita-inspired gun crafting system. But it ended up being more like Brotato. All right, Claude, how you doing? Is it editing any of the more complex things? Okay. For healing and damage, and apply the same magnitude adjustment. Okay, so Claude ran through and just like knocked out all the basic cases, which is good. So now it has to handle the other cases. Claude is really good at this kind of thing. This saved me probably 30-45 minutes of just going through all the scripts and updating everything. The other thing that's nice about Claude doing these rote, boring tasks too is that it has a tendency not to miss things that I would miss if I was doing it myself. Been keeping up on the VODs. Nice to catch you live. Yeah, welcome back, Anthony. Good to see you. Okay. So now we're probably going to need to update the character health, but I'm just going to do the Necromancer to start. We'll just bump his health up to 150 instead. I mean, maybe if I'm following the ×5 pattern, it should be 250. So we can try that. All right, so let's just do this then. Let's just give this a shot, and we'll see roughly how it's feeling. Obviously, this is not going to be the final state, but this should help me get an idea of how this health inflation is working. Latest 4.7 dev introduced max custom size for control nodes along anticipated feature. Do you migrate the project to newer stable versions of Godot or stay on the last stable that doesn't break the game? While I'm developing the game, I will migrate the project over to the latest stable versions. After release, the only time that I would migrate to the latest stable version would be if that stable version is going to fix a bug or introduce something that I need to fix a bug for players. So yeah, that would be the only case really where I would do that. But as long as the game is in development, I don't have a problem introducing new engine versions because I can fix any issues that come up. So when Alchemy releases, it will be the latest version of Godot. But after that, it will probably be frozen. Supply 1 poison. Okay, let's just see how this looks. Probably gonna have to buff. Maybe we won't have to buff fire, but let's see. We'll just see how this feels. Converts damage dealt to armor. All poison applied is increased by 1. So we'll see how this goes. So the whole point of the health inflation again is because statuses like poison and fire were too easy to build up in the previous version of the game, or in the current version of the game, I should say. And I was not able to like nerf them downward anymore. I was not able to just like reduce the numbers with respect to poison. So I'm hoping that by going the other direction and inflating the health values of the enemies, I can keep poison and fire in check and make those only like really strong when you can synergize them well. Confusion is going to need to be reworked as well. Oh, I'd have to have Claude do this thing. Anyway, so while that's working, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break and then we will continue on. Just do some playtesting, get a feel for how this is looking, and then we can decide where to go from there. So I'll be right back in just 3 minutes, and yeah, we'll continue on. All right, I'm back. Hello, Yito. What are we doing today? Today we are working on some balance stuff here. So I'm just trying to, so we're in that kind of the phase of development where I just need to get the balance and the pacing down, make the game a little bit more difficult. And that's basically it. And then the rest of it is just content and getting the final remaining features done. Like I need an end run screen and I need to redo the combat log and all that stuff. But basically we're very close. Look at all this freaking restore started. Why is this happening? So yeah, we're just trying to get the balance going well, going good, and then okay. Get the balance going well. Then content. I think we're relatively close with the balancing though, but let's give this another playtest here with those newest fixes. And we'll see how it goes. Let's go this way. Let's get some armor. Oh, did I not tell it to update armor? Oops. Almost done. Almost done. Hello, Yusuf. Welcome. Good to see you. He's locked in, yeah. Very close to another playtest. The next public playtest is launching on Monday. So, a couple of days, and you'll be able to try Alchemy. The stuff that I'm working on right now is not going to be in that playtest version. The stuff that I'm working on right now is for a future version of the game. Claude code, yes. I'm just having Claude go through and update some numbers across all my files. I mean, these are literally just like number changes here. Like this is the only change being made. Just because I'm too lazy to go through and make that change myself across, 150 scripts or however many card scripts I have. Yeah, it's working well. It keeps doing, I don't know, something bugged recently. It keeps trying to do C# project restore. I wonder if I could turn that off. Let's turn off automatic restore and see if that fixes it. All right, let's see what it did. Oops. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's try for real this time. For my game, I have a separate card data script and a text and icons, and I set the data that dictionary of that card. And I have a separate script that renders the cards. Yeah, that doesn't work for my game because a lot of my abilities like apply shielding based on certain conditions being met. It's not as simple as just like, oh, if the card applies shielding, it applies this amount. It's like some cards are like, apply 5 shielding per allied 1/1 card, which is not really doable in like a text-based way. I have to actually write the logic for that. But yeah, your way is definitely the way to go if you're, like, I guess if you're doing like a Slay the Spire-esque game where like all your cards are basically just like, that's the design of the card and that's it. That's definitely the way to do it, but there's a lot of conditionality in a lot of my abilities. Like this one, apply 4 armor. Apply 8 armor instead of health is less than 50%, which also that's wrong. I'm gonna berate Claude now. I don't want to do like a play test without at least getting the majority of the items updated here. Okay. Okay. Let's do it again. Hello, pizza wearing pants. Good afternoon. Dev work is coming along. Thank you. Well, your game is different. I was talking about a pick 3. This seems a lot more complex. Yeah. I mean, it is somewhat complex for sure. Ooh, do I do the board size increase or do I do the artifact? Well, actually, I don't know why I took that enchant. That's not going to do anything. Board size increase into booster or artifact into booster? Let's do artifact. All right, I guess we're taking the skull wand again. So we've got a 30% crit chance on minions. 3 damage and heal for the damage dealt. See, it missed that one too. 20 damage and 2 fire. We'll sell that. As I... Whoops. What the heck? Alright, well, anyway. Oh, wait. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. Right. As I point out your mistakes, make sure you're updating other instances where you miss something. Okay. Let's go to the combat. So that applied 40 armor. Okay. 30 armor per allied ritual item. I don't have that. 5 damage, confuse 1 random enemy. Let's do this. How good is Claude for GDScript? It's very good. Very good. Color palette is cool. Thank you. Gunforge 2 when? I don't know if I'm going to do a Gunforge 2. I mean, if I did a Gunforge 2, it would be a lot different. But we'll see. Let's focus on Alchemortis first and then see how that goes. Okay. So I do kind of want to see how the poison does. Oh, did it update syringe? It did, okay. So it did update a bunch of things. Alright, well, I can't take syringe. Let's just take the plague mask so I can try the poison later. Might actually be time to start doing some alchemy here. Poison to self. Well, let's just go here first. Fungus Giganticus. I might actually be able to make use of this. Let's see. We do this. We give it a skeleton. Oh, I need to sell some things. Well, we don't need the leech, that's for sure. Well, maybe I don't want to use that just yet. How much money do I have? Let's see. There's a grow board there. Oh, that's tempting. But if I go this way, I could hit 2 artifacts. Actually, I shouldn't even be able to see this far ahead, so I should probably fix that. Ooh, I have an idea. Do I have an idea? Board size increase. Let's go left. And then we could potentially fit the fungus on here. That heal did not get updated either. Oh boy, this is going to be a nightmare. Immune to paralysis. Might as well put immunity to paralysis on this guy. Let's do it. Let's be brave. Let's just fight both combats here. Oof. I'm actually sustaining pretty well. Oh, because I'm healing. Am I healing? Yeah, I am. The strange man has disappeared. Oh no, wherever has he gone? Nice. Oh, 50 damage, 40 damage. Goodness gracious. Oh, this is going to be nuts. Goodbye, skeleton dragon. Let's mix those guys together. Oh, a legendary skeleton. Wow. Apply armor equal to damage taken since last execution. Oh, interesting. Well, I don't have any room for him. Wow, that werewolf is just going to Shrek. Absorbs a random ability from an adjacent item to the right. Do I dare do this? Hopefully that doesn't massacre my wolf. Oh, it didn't. Okay. Apply 3 bleed for each time this item dealt damage. Oh. Goodbye, legendary skeleton. I'm sorry. Oh, an aberration. Nice. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, that werewolf is just nutty. Electric Boogaloo. How's using C# and Godot? It works. Yeah, it works great. I don't have any problems with it. Big numbers. I should really be trying like a poison build or something. But let's see what happens. So this boss has 588 health. Let's see what happens. I'm not really taking much damage either. Adds a falling ability to allied items. Apply 40 armor. Let's grow the board to the right, I suppose. I have a bunch of blood to spend here. Iron Gauntlet grants a Spiderling minion. Do I want anything? Just take the spider egg. Are you still having fun when playtesting? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly more fun when I can get to a state where I'm actually thinking about what I have to do. Do we want reagents? Or I guess we're doing grow board. Let's do it. We'll go to the right again. Okay, so I have some room now for some more stuff. If we absorb this... Oh, I don't have any dust. We can put this guy here. Apply 40 armor. Heck yeah. We'll go up this way. What's the difference between growing left and right? Isn't it symmetric? If you grow the board left, all the cards will be shifted over to account for that. And if you grow the board to the right, the cards will stay where they are. So, yeah, it's symmetric. I guess it's just a matter of like how you want your cards to remain placed. That's basically it. Because if it just always grew the board in one direction, you might have to shuffle all your cards around, you know what I mean? All your items. Oh! I just got. What did I take so much damage? Oh, the Morning Star dealt 131 damage. Yikes. Player health might need to be increased a little bit, but I can resurrect here. I'm probably just gonna die. Yeah. Okay. Well, that did not fix the problem of combat being too bursty. How am I going to do this? So I don't want the combat to be too bursty. I don't want it to be too easy to get lots of poison damage, which is a big culprit for burstiness. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do about this. Also easier to think about, yeah. Makes sense, really looking forward to playing. Thank you, yeah. Not tomorrow, Monday. I feel that stress headache, yeah. I really don't know what to do about this combat balancing. I don't... there's like multiple things I'm trying to manage. I don't want it to be too bursty. I want to nerf the effectiveness of poison, but I'm kind of running out of ways to do that. I mean, what I ultimately want to get into is a situation where you have to use the synergies to get the damage output that you need. But I guess what I'm consistently running into is like cards a little bit too powerful by themselves. Okay, well, I'm glad I did this on a different branch. I don't know. I have a lot to think about. I don't think that's going to be... It doesn't seem like that's going to be as easy of a fix as just inflating the health numbers, because then I have to rebalance the whole thing around that. Global modifier to make iterating tweaks fast, then run automatic tests to find the best tweaks. I just don't think that's going to be that easy. Assume you're making a bundle that gives a discount if you own Gunforged. I could do that. We'll see. Could add resistances to certain damage types to different enemies. No, my game is not that kind of game. Because you're not damaging enemies directly, you're just damaging the board. Like, it's just an auto battler, so it's like your opponent has a health pool. The resistances come in the form of like an item applying armor, right? Why not ask AI to balance it? The AI doesn't have enough context to understand how to properly balance the game. That's one of the main problems. The other problem is that if the AI balances the game, I won't have an understanding of how the balance is working. I'm trying to think if I can... I don't know. Now I'm wondering if the inflated health value is a good approach or not. Maybe not. Maybe I should just figure out how to balance it with the numbers that I've already set up. All right, well, I'm going to need to sit down and think about that some more. Because I am, like, generally happy with the way that I have it set up currently, and I don't... I think there's a way to make the higher health numbers work. And I think there's a situation where that would work, but I do like the idea of still using small numbers. Like I ideally want it to be the case where it's like if you apply 10 poison, you're like, dang, that was a lot of poison, you know? I've always liked games that just kind of like kept the numbers like lower and down to earth. So like in the current version of the game, the maximum amount of health that an enemy is going to have is like 800. And that's the final boss. And I'd like to keep it that way if possible. But I just, the core problem is poison, even I've nerfed poison many times, and it's still really easy to get that to a point where it's basically just like blowing up boards. I don't know why that is. I need to figure it out. Smaller numbers lack precision, but it's nice for keeping them simple. Yeah, that's the problem with small numbers too, is like, you know, if I keep the numbers small and then I do something like, oh, well, this item like applies 2 extra poison stacks, like that could be a huge power boost, right? Then if you have like 10 of those on the board, it's like, oh, it gets out of control very quickly. I think part of the problem, or part of the solution, is just going to be increasing the amount of content in the game, which is just naturally going to make it harder to get exactly the items that you want. So that's part of it. Like, it might be really easy to create a poison build right now simply because there's just not that many items in the game, and so you're constantly getting poison things. So that's another consideration that I have to make as well, but I think it should still be possible to get the game into a good state balance-wise, even with the more limited pool of content. I don't know, I have to think about this. I don't think that inflated health pool is going to work without broader reworks, because the other problem too is like the crit chance and the crit multipliers and stuff. Like if I have an item that does 10 damage and it crits and it does 20 damage instead, that's a noticeable damage improvement, but it's not like runaway, right? But in that last playtest that I did, the mace has a 3x critical multiplier, and so it did 130 damage to me in one hit, and it's like, you know, the multipliers kind of run away with the larger numbers as well. So maybe I'll try to get as much out of the current system I have. I'll try to squeeze as much balance out of that as possible, and then maybe I can reevaluate the health numbers if that's still not working. But I do feel like I just don't have any more room to like nerf poison without maybe considering reworking how it functions. I mean, poison could become something that, like an example of like a rework that could work is, instead of poison just doing like a chunk of damage based on the poison stacks, what it could do is it could just deal one poison damage every turn for a number of turns equal to the poison that you're applying or something like that. So if you apply 50 poison stacks, what you're essentially saying is do 50 damage over 50 turns. That may be a way to balance it. That would certainly reduce the burstiness, but then the question is, you know, it's not going to be that satisfying then if you can like push like 100 stacks of poison, because then it's just like, well, I'm not going to realize that damage until after 100 turns, right? But maybe there's an opportunity to rework how poison works and just kind of bring it more in line without necessarily changing the numbers. What if stacks had diminishing returns? They do have diminishing returns. So the way poison works kind of weird. It's well, you mean diminishing returns in terms of adding it? Like the way that poison works is that it actually tracks each application of poison separately. So it sums all of the poison up into one poison number, but each time poison is applied, it has its own like entry in the status component, and each application of poison lasts for a maximum of 3 turns, and it decreases by 1 every turn. So a poison stack will fall off if it has done 3 turns of damage, or if it goes down to a magnitude of 0. So if I apply 1 poison, it's just going to do 1 damage and then fall off. If I apply 2 poison, then it does 2 poison, and then it does 1 poison the next time, and then it falls off. But if I do 10 poison, then what that does is that does 10, and then 9, and then 8, and then it falls off. So I could do something like, maybe I could just divide it in half every time. So you apply 10 poison, that does 10 damage. Divided by half, it does 5 the next time. Divided by half, it does 2 or 3, whatever. Rounded down or rounded up the next time. The problem with doing something like that, though, is that greatly obfuscates how the poison is working from the player's perspective. It's like this very technical, like all kinds of rules of how poison damage is being applied. That makes it kind of hard to understand as a player, like what's actually going on with the poison. I mean, there's a hybrid approach too, which is I could say if you apply 5 poison, it will do 1 damage every turn for 5 turns or whatever. But let's say that you apply 4 more poison. Those turns can operate in parallel and just add the damage together. So if I have 5 stacks of poison in one application and 4 stacks of poison in the next application, what that will do is that will do 2 poison damage every turn for 4 turns. That 4 turn one will fall off, and then it will do 1 damage for the remaining turn of the 5 turn duration one. So you get the benefit of both, right? You're doing damage consistently every turn, and that damage is being added, like being done in parallel rather than sequentially. So you could still get some burstiness out of the poison based on the amount of poison that you're applying. That could be an option as well. So yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that. Let's see, either for application chance or stack damage, scales log instead of linear per stack. Yeah, something like that could work. Could add type of general status resistance shield that the player has to burn through before they can do direct damage with fire poison. That could work. Yeah, I did bundle Gunforge with Genome Guardian, yeah. Pulled out with bundling the game with others. Currently it's in 200 plus bundles, yeah. Keeping numbers low seems like an unnecessary restriction. I mean, you could argue that a lot of things about this game are unnecessary restrictions. Oh, I just realized my microphone is way too loud. Well, that's fine. I'll just keep it. My microphone is not supposed to be this loud, but that's all right. I think it makes sense for it to be drawn out rather than a satisfying burst, but I think that's the identity of the physical attack. Yeah. So I'm going to have to think about this. There's also the Dark Souls approach of having to build a status meter before they affect anything. That's a whole new system, but another approach. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about it. I think really, the main problems with the burstiness are the status effects. That is the main problem. So maybe my approach first should just be to rework the status effects. So let's just put this back. Experiment. Because right now, like all the people who are trying the game, and the playtest will be available for everyone starting on Monday. But for the people playing the game who are like blowing up the boss, it's usually because of like something like confusion or poison or fire. It's almost never the case that people are blowing up the boss with like physical damage. But I think you're right, Jack. I think maybe physical damage needs to be the thing that has the identity of being bursty, whereas the status effects are more like reliable, continuous damage that you can build up over time. So yeah, maybe just reworking how the statuses work would be enough. I don't know. So you're trying to limit the poison stack? No, I'm not trying to limit it. I'm just trying to figure out a way that I can rework it so that it's not as strong and as bursty as it is currently. Hello, Celestial Beagle. Welcome. Good to see you. Anyway. Lots of things to consider. Well, you all are welcome to put your ideas into the Discord server. I'm always checking the Discord for your suggestions and whatnot, so I'm not sure about poison. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to prototype these things. So here's what I'll do. I do want to keep the numbers low if possible. So what I'll do first is I will experiment with reworking the status effects, see if I can get their burstiness under control by just reworking how they work. And if that's still not working, then I can go with the secondary approach of like inflating the enemy health numbers as well. I think that may be good, but need to think about it. I feel like Slay the Spire kind of solved this status stacking stuff. I don't know how Slay the Spire works. I've played it, but I don't remember. Hello, Junie. Welcome. Maybe make poison on an effect that deals less damage. Well, that's the thing I'm talking about, is like I can't just make poison deal less damage with the way it currently works. Like the poison numbers are already really low, generally speaking. It's just that it's easy to get a lot of stacks of poison, which will create burstiness. I'm doing a physical damage run right now, and combat isn't bursty at all. Yeah, and that's kind of the state that I want to get in. Like, obviously there should be some runs where like you can just do a massive amount of damage and it's like super satisfying, but the main issue is not that that's happening. The main issue is that it can be recreated very consistently. Whereas it should be one of those things where like, if the stars align, then yeah, you're like blow up the boss in like one hit. But that should be a run that happens like 1 in 20 times, not like 19 in 20 times. You know what I mean? The rest of the time, it should be a matter of like, you know, you're constantly upgrading your synergies, constantly like filling out your board, constantly doing alchemy to like get that perfect combination of abilities. And like all of that effort culminates in like, you're like just barely squeaking by through the most difficult combats, right? Like that's the situation that I want to be in. And that's just not the situation that exists currently. Hello, Zach. Welcome. Good to see you. Excited to join this stream. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Keep any consistently applied status very low value while adding some status bursts that apply less frequently, like only at the start of battle, or give them some threshold, like on every 20 damage dealt or 20 enemy healed. Yeah, that could work. Slay the Spire 2 poison deal damage equals to the number of stacks. Yeah, I mean, that's, Evan, that's already something that I have. I'm already reducing the status stacks every time it does poison. The problem is that it's just still doing too much. Slay the Spire is different too, because I mean, I've never played Slay the Spire 2, but I feel like the status applications are pretty straightforward in that case. There's not a whole lot of, I mean, there are synergies with poison, of course, but in my game, it's like, it's relatively easy to get like a bunch of poison synergies on your board, and your board is ever expanding and you're stuffing more cards on the board, and it does more and more status scaling. You know, I don't have the same like Slay the Spire where like I only get a limited number of cards per hand, and I only have a certain amount of energy, and so I have to be careful about how I play them and like sequence it perfectly. And then there's the luck of the draw. That's not really at play here, because like when you go into combat, like all of the items that are going to be played in combat are there from the start, right? So the fact that it's an auto battler is a little bit different. Like there's some things that I can borrow from like the deck builder roguelikes for sure, but a lot of the systems aren't going to translate over very cleanly. Seems like a content issue then. Yeah, it could be. I think dots are maybe ticking too frequently. Well, that's the other thing. I reduced the frequency of them ticking as well. But the problem again is like I could increase the gap between when those poison statuses tick, but that's not fundamentally going to solve the burstiness problem. It's just going to delay the burstiness a little bit, right? So, yeah. We'll have to figure it out. I just got one source of convert damage to bleed on one of my harder hitting cards. Now combat is just ending super quickly. Yeah, I'm going to rework bleed. I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, but I think bleed will be an augment for your physical damage rather than just like a blanket negative status on the enemy that just causes them to melt themselves. Maybe dramatically reduce the total poison stack size, like 25 or 50% per tick. That could be a way to do it as well, is increase the rate at which poison decays. I've got a number of levers I can pull. Maybe I just haven't explored fully like how I can rework poison. But anyway, that's similar to the suggestion I put in Discord. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'll have to read that. You could cap it to a percentage of the enemy board's HP every couple turns, but IDK, if that's fun. Yeah, I'm trying not to do like hard caps. Like, I don't want to put a hard cap of like you can only have 30 poison on the enemy board, because then it's like, if you're going for a poison build, at some point that poison build is just going to be like not useful. It's not going to be useful to add more poison items, and I don't know if that's going to be fun. And similarly for like, you know, reducing the max amount of enemy health you can do in damage with poison seems like a band-aid fix for the fundamental problem, which is that it's too bursty. And plus, that is a restriction that I'd have to communicate to the player, so it's just adding more for the player to think about. I've always liked the build-up systems Monster Hunter uses. I'll have to look at that. Perhaps poison could deal even less damage, but the amount of healing the enemy can do. But reduce the amount of... Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, that could work. Could be an anti-heal thing. Anyway, I'll have to think about that. I'll probably prototype some of the stuff this afternoon, but I don't have anything else to do on the stream, so... We'll end the stream there. So again, Alchemortis is available for wishlisting on Steam. We're going to get the game balanced. We're going to get it feeling good. It's just going to take a few more iterations, I think. I am very happy about the alchemy change that I made. I have a feeling that that's going to add a lot of intrigue and randomness back into the alchemy system, but in a fair way. So I'm really excited to play test that one. I'll see if I can rework, prototype new status effects, make those work a little bit nicer. Anyway, you can wishlist Alchemortis on Steam. You could also check out the Patreon. You could support the development of the game. There's a couple of nice perks for subscribing to the tiers. I just uploaded the next devlog to Patreon, so Patreon members get early access to new devlog videos. So that's up on Patreon now. If you're a Patreon member, you can check it out. If you join Patreon, you'll be able to watch it. But that video is going to be going live on YouTube on Monday, along with the public playtest. So everyone's going to be able to play Alchemortis on Monday. So join the Discord so you can be notified when that goes live. And let's play. Yeah. Is the new Alchemy in the playtest? No, it's not. No. The playtest build is basically like frozen now. So it's a week out of date, but it's still representative of how the game feels and looks and plays. So anyway, I think auto battlers are kind of expected to be bursty if you simply have a perfect counter to the enemy's build, so maybe that's okay. Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, some burstiness is okay. The main problem is that it's too easy to get a bursty build, like, every run. So that's the main problem. Like, I still want it to feel interesting and difficult, and, like, the typical roguelike formula of, like, it should be difficult for the most part, unless you just, like, get that perfect run where, like, everything's dropping exactly the way that you need it to drop for the build that you want to do. And then you can just have like a runaway, like just absolutely romp through the game. But those have to feel special and rare versus the default case, which is that you should have to spend a lot of time like thinking and min-maxing and stuff to get through the run, right? Maybe a solution to have some algorithm that balances the builds enemies have based on the player's build. I cannot do that because the runs are seeded. I want to support the ability of players to share their run seed with other players so that other players will have that same exact experience. And if I'm dynamically changing things about the run, that's just going to defeat the purpose of that. Now, I guess it is an option to say, maybe I just drop the seeded run requirement. Maybe I just get rid of that and say, players are not going to be able to share seeds with each other. It's just your run is going to be tailored to you, so on and so forth. But I don't want to do that if I don't have to. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for your support. And I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye-bye.